I love culture, as you know, and I love to learn. Someone just looking at you probably have a lot of assumptions.
My parents were just like, I just want you to stay out of jail, don't get a DUI, and graduate. All the Asian kids that I knew growing up had white parents. So suddenly that became a norm. But that was when all of a sudden I started to notice, oh wait, I am treated differently. Suddenly expression out their face, no interest in learning who I was.
So, Mike, I'm so happy to have you on. This is a first for me with this podcast, Proximate Conversations.
Mhm.
You know, I had this vision or idea about doing a podcast, and my wife, Jen, kept pushing me to just go ahead and do it and not worry about it being perfect. And so I'm giving it a run. And my first guest is you. And I'm so glad to have you on because I don't know, we haven't talked in a while.
Yeah.
So this gives us a chance to catch up as friends. And when I texted you, I said May is Asian American and Pacific Islander month, and you're about as Asian as I know.
Which is pretty sad, man. Like you need to start hanging out at East St. Paul or something a little more.
Yeah, perhaps.
But I appreciate that. I appreciate I have that kind of cultural presence in your life.
Yeah, it's true though. I do have other Asian friends. You know, people say, I have friends who are Asian. But I think you are my like first buddy, I would say. Getting to know each other back from Target with you being a trainer.
Oh
and,
man.
Yeah.
Those are rough days.
No, you're a good trainer. That's why we connected.
Yeah.
But we did a lot of laughing and learned a lot about each other. So I had this crazy idea. I said, okay, I'm gonna launch this podcast. It's Asian American Heritage Month. I love culture, as you know, and I love to learn.
Yeah.
And so getting to know you has been a joy in my life because you're Asian, but you're adopted.
Right.
So that makes your lived experience way different than, you know, someone just looking at you probably have a lot of assumptions.
Yeah.
Little do they know.
All the time.
Such as what? Give me some examples of some of the assumptions people have.
Oh my God. So a lot of people are always impressed that my English was really good. That's a good. There was a lot of times where people would come up and they would do that. Hi, how are you? Like, you know, talking.
Why do people think folks with a accent can't hear?
I don't know.
How are you today?
I know, it's like talking slower. Like I'm like
and louder.
I'm good. Like and they're like, oh, your English is so good. I'm like, well, that's all I know.
Right. Where are you from?
Like, where are you from? I'm like, Dayton, you know, farm town. Well, and it's funny too because you know you try not to be a jerk or rude, but you know when you hear it once a week or twice a week, you know, eventually, especially as a kid, you know, you got angst anyways for everything. So,
right.
But yeah. So it was just, you know, kind of one of those things that those were the things that was always assumed, and then thinking that I was always more, you know, kind of what was stereotyped, right? Smart, good in math, you know, like that I was, you know, always the quiet kid that, you know, wouldn't speak up. And, you know, I had a foul mouth on me and I'd never kept my mouth shut. And I was not smart. Like
I was thinking, I was like, man, were your parents disappointed? Like, he's not good at math at all. We should send him back.
Like, what is the return policy on this?
Right.
You know what's funny though? Where I grew up, my parents were just like, I just want you to stay out of jail, don't get a DUI, and graduate.
Wow.
Like that was kind of the standard, and they were like blue collar workers and stuff.
Sure.
They were mechanics and they owned their own auto repair shop.
Hmm.
So, maybe where they grew up and the people that they were around, they weren't with those highly academic crowds and
Sure.
stuff.
Sure.
So, and then also my parents are what, third generation American or fourth generation American. So it wasn't like first gen parents that, that they come to America to give their kids opportunity and to
Right.
do good in school and expectations and all that. Yeah, it was just stay out of jail, don't get a DUI and graduate,
Mhm.
So
Sure.
the standard was, I would say, it's pretty low.
But you succeeded.
I flew by with flying colors.
Okay, so you grew up where? So Dayton, Minnesota.
Yeah.
Where is it at on the map? Like
Yeah,
in relation to the Twin Cities?
So it's in the north. I would say like the northwest. Well, at the time it wasn't a suburb, but now it is. It's the northwest suburb, right outside of Maple Grove.
Okay. So
So
northern suburb.
yeah. So when I was adopted and came to the States, it was considered a village still, and we had a dirt road.
Okay.
I think there was maybe 4,000 people that lived in the city.
Okay.
So it was a big, like area wise, it was really big, but population, it was all cornfields and farm country.
So you grew up a country boy.
I grew up minus the racism. I
Sure.
was a hillbilly, man. We grew up, we had farms all around us, hunting, fishing, fixing our own cars, just doing all the stuff that you're kind of quote unquote typical Midwestern white folk do,
Sure.
so
I think how handy and smart you were with so many things is like one of the things that first gravitated me towards you, because
mm,
it's like, oh, I know how to fix this, or I know, like, you just, because I'm not a handy person. I'm always fascinated by people who are good with their hands and can tinker with cars or put things together.
Yeah. That was all my dad because I mean, he grew up kind of doing, he was in Vietnam and they were kind of forced to have to learn all this stuff.
Sure.
And, economic or financially, it's not like they could afford people to hire people to come and fix stuff all the time. And he was a mechanic by trade. So yeah, everything was that I had learned was just, hanging out with him and getting forced to have to do stuff with him. And
Sure.
but I really appreciate it now as a homeowner, as somebody who is now taking care of two generations older than me,
Mm.
Just being somebody that is now has a lot of responsibilities.
Sure.
It's nice to not have to always call somebody to fix a doorknob or something.
Right. Yeah, like I have to do. Oh man. Well, see, this is what I like about getting proximate with someone who's different, because just from paper, me being from the inner city of Chicago, you being from northern Minnesota, you wouldn't think like, what do these guys have in common? How could they laugh and get along? And we've been laughing and getting along since the first time we met
Day
each other.
one, I think, yeah.
Since day one. And you called me a Bible thumper. Which I laughed.
I wasn't even shy about it either. Like,
No.
I didn't even think of it as being possibly offensive. It
was hilarious to me though. And I think I might have had a Bible on my desk and you picked it up and you're like, what are you, a Bible thumper?
Yeah, because I haven't found my faith. I haven't found my relationship with God yet at that time. Yeah. Church, we never really talked about it much or anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then we actually just stopped going. There was just, so it really wasn't practiced.
Sure.
And so when you and I met, it was sort of in the midst of that time,
The way that Jen grew up, it was her mom made her go until she got confirmed, and then she had.
Oh, her mom did?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So her mom was raised Catholic on the reservation. So they.
Oh, was she part of the? Well, let's see. In the States, it was called boarding schools, right?
Yeah, but it wasn't a boarding school, but they had forced integration, and they had a horrible experience with nuns. But my mother-in-law still kept that Catholic guilt with her, and so she raised them up that way until she decides to make a different decision for herself.
Sure.
So, at any regard, you are now in Canada.
Yep.
In Toronto specifically.
2015, 2021 became a citizen.
Okay. So now you are a turncoat. No.
Yep.
He said proud one. So you have dual citizenship, I'm assuming. Okay.
Yeah. Dual citizenship. Yeah.
Tell me what it's like living in Toronto. Like compare and contrast this, Toronto to the Twin Cities, to Minneapolis and St.
Yeah. Well, let's see. Where do you start? You can tour the world in the city. You can food tour the world. You can culture tour the world. I think Toronto and the GTA, the Greater Toronto Area, I can't remember what the total is, but I think it's around 17 million now, something like that, people. And I think Minnesota in the entire state only has like 6 million. Something.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
And I don't know. I did some research a while back, and I think it was like 95% Caucasian or something like that, or 94%.
Who is Minnesota?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that sounds about right.
But then in Toronto, it's like maybe the only majority that you see could be Asian in certain areas. Okay. But it's hard to find a majority of people in Toronto. Like I don't know, and I don't know how accurate this is, but I heard something like 170 different languages and dialects are spoken. There's different pockets that are dedicated as like Little India, Little Italy, China. There's multiple Chinatowns. There's a city called Markham that has, I think it's around 900,000 people or something like that. And I think 70% or 75% is like Hong Kong and mainland Chinese.
Oh, wow.
And so many of the stores that are there's big shopping malls that, are dedicated, mainly Chinese run. And so, yeah, it's hard to explain it. The city feels even bigger than it is because of how diverse it is.
Okay.
We were talking earlier about this. The use of Black to categorize people is not really that commonly used.
And then you were also saying like culture or ethnicity is used more so, like Caribbean or
yeah, culture or even country of origin. Like Eritrean, Sudanese, Congolese, everything like that. And so, especially even in the Asian culture too, it's like you almost don't hear Asian. It's just like, oh, Chinese, Korean, Vietnamese.
Thai. Well, I think that's kind of refreshing because it shows that, just because you may have a shared skin tone, like there is diversity. Like
huge. Yeah. I think what tripped me out the most was meeting Chinese Jamaicans. Like it tripped me out because all of a sudden I went into this patty shop and there's Chinese people there, and I was just like, okay. I was expecting to see like African Jamaican, right?
Sure.
And then all of a sudden they started speaking me into like a Patois accent. I was like, my brain had such a hard time processing that.
Wow.
But the Chinese community, man, they can adapt, and they've adapted in so many different areas. And then obviously, historically and, the Caribbean, kind of how people get channeled to different places and stuff. So it's like different mixes like that I'm just like, whoa.
Okay, so tell me about like foods.
Man. So let me tell you.
What would be considered like Canadian food as opposed to some of the different cultural or ethnic foods that you have?
So I would say that if somebody were to say, oh, this is Canadian food, it's just very Western. So like what people might call American food, right? Okay. Burgers, fries, things like that.
Okay.
But then there are certain things that are specific to Canada, but its actually origin is in Quebec. It's poutine, which is the fries, gravy, and cheese curds.
Wait, you said fries, gravy?
Yeah, so it's fries,
Uh-huh.
cheese curds,
Uh-huh.
and then gravy on top
Oh,
of it. And then
okay.
there's some places that they'll put like the Montreal smoked meat, which is really popular, at like the delis and stuff.
Okay.
You know, you can get it like that. You can get it like at McDonald's. I mean, that's how common it is that you can get it at A&W fast
Okay.
food, and then you've got a lot of places that it's just an option to get as your side. So,
Okay.
but here, let me give you this example to help give you an understanding of how diverse the food is.
Okay.
So, from our house, if we were to say in a half-mile radius, we can get Korean food, Japanese food, Armenian food, Lebanese food, Caribbean food, all your different fast foods, proper Chinese food, so not like just Western Chinese.
Not General Tao chicken.
No, but the Gentile chicken is still good, man. It's still good. Greek food, Italian food, like you can literally hit up all that within a half-mile radius.
We ran into some Italians with a thick Italian accent in the Dominican Republic who lived in Toronto.
Yeah.
It was
There's a lot of first gen. There's a lot of first gen that live here that have really helped populate. So if I can remember correctly, about 20 years ago, the demographics of Toronto. No, actually, it'd be longer than that. About 35 years ago, because I've been there for 10 years now. So about 35 years ago, the demographics of Toronto was very different. It wasn't quite as diverse. A lot of Chinese, a lot of Caribbean, a lot of East Indian, and I think Lebanese, Italian, Irish, so, but then really over the last, 20, 25 years, 30 years, there's been a huge influx of just everywhere.
Sure.
Has really been growing. And so I think that's what's beautiful about the country.
Yeah, I was going to say, and is it universally celebrated, or is it met with some contention, like here in the States, when people feel like, it's too many immigrants or illegal immigrants?
Toronto, I would say no.
Okay.
The GTA, I'd say no. If you get further out, I think you will definitely see more of that. Here's the other thing too, is that to kind of use Toronto as a reference of what Canada is like is sort of unrealistic.
Okay.
Like Toronto is very much a phenomenon. It kind of stands alone. There's some people outside of Toronto that get irritated because Toronto gets all the attention for Canada,
Sure.
And all that. But there's a lot of racism not too far outside of the city. If you go an hour north or an hour east, there's a couple cities that have been known to have a lot of racism, presence of the KKK, and other and other white supremacy groups and stuff like that.
Okay.
Hell's Angels, was birthed out of Montreal and had I think they still have one of their clubhouses in downtown Toronto.
The NBA, has the Toronto Raptors, and I've seen players who played there like feel sad or upset when they get traded from Toronto because they felt very enmeshed in the city or embraced by the city. And whenever I watch like the crowds and stuff, like they really like there's a lot of pride that you see. So I would say like before you move in there, like my only connection to Toronto was sports and wrestling.
Yeah.
You have the
a lot of Canadians.
A lot of Canadians. So that's interesting.
I mean, I can't stress it enough. People that have never been to Toronto that want to get like exposed to as much culture as you can in a short period of time, without a doubt, hands down.
Okay.
Come to Toronto. And even it's even one of those things too, to where it's like, even if you want to try to find more presence of your own culture, your own origin country, you can most likely find a decent presence of it here. And there is a lot more intentionality to respect the Indigenous and Aboriginal people. There's
Yeah,
still a lot more work. There's
sure.
no question. There's a ton of more work that needs to be done. But that is something that is also celebrated and highlighted.
I've seen, ceremonies and things done to honor what they call First Nation
Hmm. Yeah.
people, and it's quite different than here in the U.S. Because I feel like the U.S. we continue to want to skirt or duck and dodge
Hmm.
our horrid history,
Yeah.
and it is what it is, right? And so to try to masquerade it like it never happened,
Hmm.
or I think it's disingenuous, and why it creates so much hostility between this side versus that side is because it's like as a nation as a whole, regardless of who's been in office, we've yet to. I think Biden maybe tried to do something as far
Mm.
as like natives are concerned, but I would just say, just by and large, as a whole, as a nation, I feel
Yeah.
like we don't do a good enough job acknowledging the bloodshed for this great country to be built. And so I do appreciate that from Canada that they at least have tried.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
There's efforts and there's there is a little more intentionality than the US.
yeah,
For
that's what I'm
sure.
getting at.
For
Some
sure.
intentionality.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So earlier I joked with you about being adopted and being Korean. Uh, but that's our humor, and that's the beauty of being friends, right? You
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
go
Yeah.
there, and it's like
Yeah,
no,
if it was a stranger that said anything like that, I'd be pretty I'd be a
right.
little mad, right? But
And
yeah,
if I
totally
didn't joke
different.
with you like that, you'll think like, what's wrong with him,
I know. Why is he so serious?
right? Was he so serious? But talk to me about that though, about you being adopted, raised, in northern Minnesota,
Mm,
going to all white schools or majority white schools and
yeah, yeah.
activities. When I met you, you were wakeboarding. I'm like, what's a wakeboard? Snowboarding. Um, all these X games that you used to do. So just tell me, like, okay, did you know right away, like, I'm adopted, or was it like one day you looked in the mirror and like, mom and dad, we don't look alike. What are these kids telling me at school?
Wow. All right. So I'll try to sum it up
Okay,
a bit because it can get very in depth and take up the whole, hours. But you see the difference, you're adopted, but internally you feel like I felt white, like
sure.
there were times where people were being racist and I didn't even know they were talking to me.
Mm,
I wasn't even really listening or, they'd use racial slurs and I wouldn't think that it just wouldn't register that they were actually talking to me. I
sure.
thought they were talking to somebody else.
Hmm.
So, but here's the funny thing. So in Dayton, there was about 4,000, 5,000 people.
Hmm.
There was maybe one Filipino family, maybe one black family, but then there were like 17 adopted Asian kids.
Mm,
And so all the Asian kids that I knew growing up
hmm.
had white parents.
Mm,
So suddenly that became a norm. I was just
okay,
like, oh, that's just normal. That's, I don't know anything else.
sure.
And then when I got into junior high, I went to a school a little closer to the city. So started seeing more Vietnamese people and it was still just us kids, though. You weren't seeing families.
Sure.
And then we got to high school, and then you start to get closer bonds and start hanging out and meeting family. That's where I met my first non adopted Korean friend
Mm,
and got introduced to her family.
okay.
And all of a sudden, I was just like, oh, your parents are Korean.
Mm.
Oh, your grandma's Korean. I'm just like, I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. I forgot. That totally makes sense.
Like that does exist.
Yeah, it's like, and then like I didn't think about that with any other culture, even
Sure.
some of my other friends that were interracially adopted.
Hmm.
It was just from my own experience. So, so yeah, but in high school and when you're just getting out of high school, you're just trying to fit in anyways. Like everyone's trying to fit in
Sure.
regardless of being adopted or anything. But I was just talking about this actually earlier with my parents, is that you're always kind of under this white umbrella or in this white bubble when you're with family. You're kind of protected by them. But then I remember one specific incident to where we went into a restaurant, all the servers were real friendly, nice, blah, blah, blah. And then I got up and had to go to the washroom,
Mhm.
and I asked them, I was like, "Oh, where's the restroom?" And they had such a different persona with me all of a sudden.
Mm,
So that was the first time I'm like, "Oh, like when I'm on my own,
sure.
they say me as a Chinaman." Like that's
Right.
just what everybody thought I was
Right.
Chinese, right? So
That's
you're
what my daddy would
Chinaman.
call you for sure.
Yeah,
How's
Chinaman,
your,
right?
how's
Yeah.
your friend the Chinaman?
Yeah, exactly, right. And
You
it's
know,
just like you're not gonna sit there and correct every person that does
right.
that, or get mad at every person that does it. And so eventually you're just like, "Oh, I'm Korean," and they're like, "Oh, whatever."
Mm,
So I'm just like, but that was when all of a sudden I started to notice, oh wait, I am treated differently
sure.
when I am on my own.
Hmm.
So it was really interesting just kind of navigating that as a young adult. And then, as you start getting older, and then you get into the workplace, you start to see where, certain people can kind of get away with anything
Mm,
and then you got other people where it's like the second that you speak up, especially if it's people of color or darker melanin skin,
hmm.
it was like if you even chose to speak up, suddenly you were being rude or you were being,
Hmm.
a nuisance or whatever it might
Hmm.
be. And so it was interesting when I started dating, my then wife, who's Korean, non adopted,
Hmm.
and then started coming to visit Toronto and then I started to even recognize, I'm like, oh, I was like, there's Asian people that do, lot surveying,
Right.
like it's like, oh, they're not just all what I saw growing up,
Sure.
nerds or whatever you call
Right.
it, right? Like we know how people were portrayed in TV shows and movies and
Oh,
stuff,
for
right?
sure. For sure. Yeah.
But what was interesting was when I started meeting people in the Korean community, and
Mhm.
then they would find out that I was adopted. So
Okay.
then suddenly they would see me and they'd have smiles and they'd be trying to talk to me in Korean and I don't know what they're saying.
Uh-huh.
And then when it was explained to them that, oh, like, oh, he's adopted,
Uh-huh.
suddenly expression out their face,
Mhm.
no interest in learning who I was. So it was sort of like this sense of rejection
Sure.
from the
Sure.
Korean community
Sure.
because I wasn't Korean enough. I didn't know my
Right.
bloodline. I don't have a Korean name,
Sure.
nothing.
Right. You're German.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
but there, and so there were so many times where people would be so confused when I show up. They've talked to me on the phone,
Right.
been emails, whatever it might be.
You have a great speaking voice.
Yeah,
Like
that throws people off too. Yeah,
yeah, but I mean you do. So then, if someone is listening to you on the phone, because I know you've done a lot of customer service and training
yeah,
and
yeah,
stuff. And you're
yeah.
like, hey, I'm Mike. You're like, you're the Mike?
Wait, and also their brain just kind of short circuits, and
Right.
then they're like, "How do you say your last name?" I was like, "Just like it's spelled, Thielmann. It's not some funky Asian way of saying
Right.
it."
You're mine.
Yeah, yeah. So it was really weird kind of navigating that, not really fully fitting in,
Sure.
into the white culture because I could act it perfectly, but I didn't look it.
Right.
And then obviously in the Korean culture, it's like I can look it, but
Right.
I just can't act it.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
So it was, and that's what a lot of adoptees have challenges with is that if they even get that opportunity to engage with the Korean culture, there's so much kind of like embarrassment of trying to speak Korean when you don't, and
Sure.
and all that. But
Have you picked
it's
up some words here and there now that
I have, but it's like if I use them in public, then they want to start speaking in Korean to me.
oh, sure.
And then I gotta be like, oh, I don't speak Korean, and that just feels dumb,
Right.
you know. And then they're kind of confused because I know enough and can make it sound like I speak Korean when I say hello or if I just have a quick question.
Hmm.
So then when I'm like, oh, I don't speak Korean, and they're like, well, you just spoke Korean.
Like, hey man,
Yeah. So,
you're
so there's
fooling
so
me here.
many times I'm like, I don't even bother, I don't
Sure. Like,
even
let
when
me
I
not
went to
just
Korea and stuff, I didn't even bother trying to speak the little bit that I knew because I'm like, well, that's not going to go anywhere.
sure.
So,